Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am here every Monday night on WEMS radio from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., bringing you spiritual conversations. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G. And tonight I have a special guest that I will bring to share with you what she's been doing and what her spiritual practices are. And tonight, my special guest is a woman that I would like to salute as a phenomenal woman for Women's History Month. Tonight is the beginning of Women's History Month. And so I found that it was really great to have this special woman on my show. So get ready for a treat tonight. I bring different people from different perspectives each week, and we talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does spirituality work in your everyday life? How can you use it at all times? We have been going through a lot. Oh, and one thing is the year since we've been on lockdown. So it's March, and March was the beginning of the whole COVID lockdown. So we've made it through a whole year, and I'm sure that we've all had a lot of interesting things happen during this time. And I hope that this show can bring some healing, some peace, some spiritual practices, some ways to support you as we continue through this whole COVID half year or whatever we're going through. So you can find me also daily on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on Instagram as Rev G. I can also be found on YouTube. So follow me and get great spiritual information and just information that can support you in living your best life with grace and ease. So I'm all about the joy, and I hope that we can have a fun time tonight as well as salute this phenomenal woman. Tonight I have Denise Cordova on my show. Denise is a director of HR compensation. She is also a social advocate and many, many things. I met Denise when I was in college. One of the first people that I met at college was Denise. So we go back a long, long way. And it's very special that we've had this relationship over all these years. I won't tell you guys how many years it's been, but it's been a lot of years that, that we've had a really, really special relationship. So I'm excited to have her on the show. Denise, come on in.
Hey there, Gren. How you doing?
Good. So the thing is Denise and I, we talk all the time. So tonight we were saying, okay, what kind of conversations are we going to bring? Because we talk about so many different things. So I think let's talk about COVID first, I guess, right?
COVID? You said COVID?
COVID-19, the whole scenario of that has been 1 year, right?
Right.
And so if we look at during that year, can you talk about some of the challenges that you had during this past year due to the whole lockdown and the COVID situation?
All right. Well, that's a good start. So, like you said, it's been about a year that we've shut down. And what your audience may not know, that last year around this time, you, myself, and our friend Donna were planning a big celebration down here in NOLA for our birthdays. We were going to celebrate our birthdays together down here in New Orleans. And to our surprise, literally the week that we were going to have our festivities was when everything shut down. And so that was just strange in itself. You know, I was amazed though at because I'm working now. I work at a local university, and I was amazed at the ability for us to work remotely just like that. You know, it literally one day we were at work and the next day we were working remotely, and it's been working actually really well. So at the beginning, I think for my own experience, at the beginning, it was cool, like being home and, you know, working from home, and it was comfortable, and people were doing things out in their yards and stuff. But then after a while, it's like 6 months. I was tired.
You know, something else set in right after that, right?
So what else is there to do? So right now, it feels like because you're staying home, you know, so I'm online all the time. I'm on Zoom and that type of stuff for work all day, and then I'm home, and it's like I'm home all the time and by myself. So it's been interesting. You know, it's been interesting. My viewpoints about it, like some of the stuff has changed, because at the beginning I was one of those souls that said, I'm not taking that stuff. That vaccine comes out.
Right, me too, right?
I'm like, no, not me. But I have since changed. I
know. I was one of those people too, and I have to get my second shot coming up, right? And it was interesting because I was one of those. I was going to be the diehard. I was going to be the last man, and you were not going to get it.
Exactly.
But then I found a reason, right? He said, I have found the motivating factor, right? That's supporting me in getting it. But then after I thought about it, I realized that, you know, I'm okay with it. I feel I'll be okay. I know I'll be okay. I get to travel. I get to be safe. I understand the uses of it. And I always say, my story is when we were young, they would just shoot us up. We set it on.
Right.
And we was like, just give it to us. And we took it and we're okay. So I'm rolling on that part of it, right? It's just like, we'll be okay.
I think part of my changing is, like I said, I work at a university and they have a school of medicine, and they were doing crazy research nonstop since this all started. And so, you know, I was getting more data, you know, getting more information and just starting to understand different things. And then because it's been so long now, a year, I am missing everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do want to get together with people. So
that is interesting. As much as you thought you were like, oh, these people at work, or oh man, I am so tired of all of this work, right? And think about how many vacations we wanted to take, right? And now but it's the human contact, especially for you. I have my husband here with me, but being alone is a very, very different experience. A year in the house, working from home. I mean, really on serious lockdown, right? During that time. Can you talk about maybe some of your, I'll call them wins, right? That happened to
Well, like I said, at the beginning, I was gung-ho and I did a lot of stuff in my yard because I'm relatively new here. So I did stuff in my yard. Now my wins are real sorry. Like my wins are going to the grocery store. That's a win for me, you know? And it's real hard being down here in New Orleans. It's real hard because they really have shut stuff down. So the energy is different. You know, they're bursting at the seams to get out there, you know, because that last Mardi Gras, I was out there. I went to all these parades. I can still see myself jumping and trying to catch things and all that kind of stuff out there with the, you know.
I thought about that because when you move, you've been there maybe 3 years, right?
I think it's getting ready to be 4.
4 years. So think about how you thought New Orleans would be the whole Mardi Gras scene. We were about to have the party, and then the reality of that is so different. And
Right.
how they bring that back and work it through also is going to be interesting. At what point will you get back to the full party of just being in the street and flowing in the street,
Right,
right?
because that's what they do. But I also noticed since I've been here for this short amount of time, they know how to come back. They know how to
Mm,
come back from stuff. So, for instance, we did not have Mardi Gras. However,
uh-huh,
everybody did celebrate, and they celebrated a little different this year.
mhm.
One thing they did was that they had house floats, and
Oh,
people literally, because most houses down here have porches, so
mhm,
people literally decorated their homes to look like floats. So people
mhm.
would drive by and take a look at the floats. And then at different parks, they also had something called Oaks, um, uh, floats in the Oaks. And that's at City
Mm.
Park. And they literally had floats, decorated floats in the park, and people would drive by. And
Okay, so
so
yeah.
they do come up with different ideas. I have a
Mhm,
feeling when they come back next year with Mardi Gras, it's going to
mhm.
be bigger than ever. Is
Okay,
my
so we need to do that party then, right? That's
right,
the year, right?
right.
We need to do that party. I know you said that you worked at a university, right? And you work in human resources compensation. But
Hmm.
what kinds of changes have you seen happening on the university? I think I'm shifting into like the racial injustice stuff that we saw happening, right? And so I'm shifting into what kind of things have you seen happening on a university level around just racial injustice and responsibility. Um,
Well, it's just been blowing up. It's just been blowing up, and different. Because I was giving this some thought. Different universities have different missions,
mhm,
so it depends on their missions and that type of thing, but it is in the forefront. There's certain things that are in the forefront, at least where I'm at right now, and
mhm,
that's racial equality,
mhm,
economic,
mhm,
economic justice, that type of, all of those things are in the forefront, as well as with COVID and with the pandemic. So there's
mhm,
a lot of research going on. There's a lot of activity happening um, with different policies and practices and
mhm,
committees, and students being involved, employees being involved, just a number of different things, speakers, down here, also like in New Orleans and every place else at this university, also renaming of buildings and different
mhm,
things like that. So there's a lot of activity going on
mhm.
around racial equality.
That brings to mind Clark University. And I know you just did a panel with them recently. We went to Clark University, and when we went to
In
Clark,
Worcester, Massachusetts, you got to be clear.
it was Massachusetts,
Not
right?
Atlanta, not Atlanta, Georgia.
It
Worcester,
was
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, right? And we had a small minority population, 5 Black women and 5 men. And we went onto the campus and we just got involved with everything in the campus. Recently, Denise was on a panel with the Clark University students now, and it's so different, right? And what brings to mind is they have a lot of demands that they put forth to Clark University. They want them to see them do things. And here we're talking about the different things that are happening at your university in New Orleans, right? And I wonder how, if Clark, it doesn't seem like, based on what you were hearing from them, is Clark taking some of the same measures that you see happening at Tulane?
Oh yeah, I don't. I feel as that where I'm at right now, they're going through major change, and they were going through major change before all of this came to surface. So they were already making movement. Now with Clark, based on, like you're saying, what these other students have suggested that's going on, they have a lot of change happening there. But like, for instance, they have new president. So I couldn't tell from the conversation that we all were having the other night, I couldn't tell what role the president had in there. Like, does this president add to make the place better or distracts from that? I couldn't tell from the information, but so I'm not sure. I have a feeling, because it matters whether you're a state school, it matters whether you're a private school, on how things are governed and how you can get how you can influence change. So I'm not sure. I don't think colleges will be doing the same thing, because they have to do what fits their mission and the direction they want to go in and that type of thing. So I don't think it's going to be one of those one size fit all, because you can't answer some of these large questions that are being asked today with just one answer.
Right. And that, you know what that brings me to, as I was thinking about it, you're in compensation and you deal with wages, right? And are they now working on, like, do you see the divide? Have you been able to see? Yeah.
That is interesting. So when this stuff first started coming up, and being in charge of compensation, so that means that we determine what salaries, what salaries are associated with which particular type of jobs and all that type of stuff. So we go out, we do market research and all of this. And so I feel very confident that our programs are equitable, that they're absolutely equitable. So I feel very confident about that. I will tell you what I don't feel confident about, and this is for any place. I don't necessarily feel confident about the way managers may be administering our policies and practices. That's out of our control. So, when we grade a job, when we price a job, we're not worried about the people. We're not thinking about what the people look like, whether it's male or female, black or white, or anything like that. We're looking at what type of skills are needed for that job. We're looking at, what type of responsibilities they have. Who do they report to? Does anybody report into them? Do they manage a budget? So we're looking at the job.
It's a different perspective.
Exactly.
And then once you do that, how it's administered is not on you, right?
Exactly. That's my concern.
Right. And it's interesting because it could be around the higher paying jobs, you will hire maybe male and white. And then, Lord, I don't know how that.
Well, no, it's even more than that, because it's even about recruitment, because what you're talking about is recruitment. So that's a whole nother thing, which they are trying to address. But I'm literally talking about if you have a manager. So the manager is responsible for your merit increase. And suggesting your merit increase and that type of stuff, or promotions. If this person has an unknown bias, is not aware of their biases, they could be applying practices that are biased. So that's my concern.
And I know a lot of people are doing workshops on unconscious biases, right? That we just practice, not even conscious that they are, and we're just practicing them.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that is interesting. We talk about the whole racial equality and inclusion thing. And I always try to look at it on an institutional level also, what kind of things are we seeing happening? What changes are going on to support what we want? You know how I say to you guys, where are the marchers, right? Where are
right. Everybody's still out there. People are still out there. It's just called something a little different.
right? And so really about what we're doing to support the whole movement, right? And I know that they're still out there, and I always say, oh, it's winter time, and we'll get back to it. But just some of the impact. Let's talk a little bit about your spiritual journey, Denise. Can you talk about, you were raised Baptist and and where you are now?
Oh,
You was raised Baptist. Were you raised or Catholic? Well,
Episcopalian.
Oh, okay. I mean, God, I think everybody's a Baptist, right?
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Oh, right.
Yeah. No, Episcopalian. They're called the Frozen Chosen. That's what they call themselves. The Frozen Chosen. We were a stiff bunch. Very, very stiff bunch. And it is they broke off from the Catholic. They did break out from Catholic, so they're a little more loose, but they still consider themselves the Frozen Chosen. So early in life, early in life, I didn't like what I saw. It just didn't register to me, based on what people were saying about God and that type of thing, but watching people's actions. And at that time, which was a while ago, also racial. I had concerns about racial because all the people that were high within the church, were white males.
Oh, okay.
At that time anyway. And I just found that really odd because the particular church that I attended was of a lot of Black professionals, back in that day. So I couldn't understand, like, what's this makeup?
The Jim Jones kind of experience.
What'd you say?
I said the Jim Jones kind of experience.
No, no, please, Lord, child, no. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, no, I had this whole thing. I'll tell you, I don't want to interrupt you, but when I was younger, they would have these church tent meetings, they would call them, right? Where they would put up a tent on a field, right? And all the Black people would go, but the people doing it were all the white people, right? That were doing it, right? And so that was my experience of the whole tent thing. And that's what it kind of reminded me of.
No, this is because when you think about it, the Catholic Church was mainly white male. And again, this was something that broke away from it. Now they have a little bit of color, and they do have females and that type of thing. But back when I was a kid, they did not. And it made me uncomfortable. Just made me uncomfortable. It didn't sit right with me. And just a whole lot of different things made me want to seek out something different. And then later in life, starting to realize that you can be spiritual. You don't have to be religious. You can be spiritual, and that spoke to me. And then you start meeting new people, going to school, different places that I started going, learning about different ways of being, so to speak. Took me on my journey, which I continue, which I'm always seeking.
It is really cool to be able to explore different practices to support our spiritual practices, right? The different things. As a social justice advocate, right? And knowing that, I know we've just gone through a lot, right? With
You think? Ah.
I'm gonna connect like what spiritual practices have supported you, because what the thing that's important for me also is that there's healing, and there need that we need to heal from all the pain from all the years, and then supporting us in doing that at the same time, moving forward and creating, taking advantage of the opportunities. Because I say we were the generation before us. I feel like they got water holes, right? They went out there and they marched in the streets, right? We didn't do that, right? We didn't march in the street because for us, I think we took that whole idea of education. We was like, get an education. Education became the thing for us. As,
You know,
as
right. And you're talking right, social justice and that type of thing. So in high school, which was, in high school I was they used to call me a militant and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I was a mess. I was a mess. Um, but Clark helped me see different things because I did start realizing um, education was everything.
Mm.
Education was everything. Well, I'll put it this way. First of all, I always loved books. So no matter what, I love books. I love reading. I loved learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, it opened up my world. Like
Mm.
going to college just opened up my world because I realized there's other options. There's other
Mm.
opportunities. There are
Mhm.
other ways of looking at life.
Mhm.
That's what, for me, that's what kind of changed me and
Mhm.
and made me, I just feel like more open to different possibilities and that type of thing. And so I think, like you're saying, you're saying when we went to Clark and we got there, you're right. The class before us had already done all this making demands. So we had a cultural center. We had stuff set up. And what we decided, and I don't see anything wrong with it. What we decided was to enjoy and appreciate all those things we had available to us on
Mhm.
that particular campus. We
Mhm.
made friends, whether they were white or black. We made
Mhm.
friends. We did our thing. We all did our things
Mhm.
there. Now, were the upperclassmen happy about it? No.
Right.
I think that was our biggest battle. Our biggest battle was the upperclassmen. But I also recall, and not with all, but a lot of them didn't um, finish. They
Mhm.
didn't. They didn't stay at Clark.
Right.
You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So it, we I think we had a different attitude
Mhm.
about what we wanted to get out of that experience. And
Mhm.
we still remained, I feel as though we brought to that campus our culture. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? About being black,
Mhm.
I'm black and I'm proud. My kids tease me about that all the time. But that's the kind of stuff we brought to Clark. We let them know. We put on the shows and all that kind of stuff about the black experience and all
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
We didn't let them forget. It might have just been a few of us, but we're here.
Right.
So
Surely didn't. What talk about some of the spiritual practice that you use? I know we've been on this whole transformational journey for a long, long time, right? And we've been on this journey together, right?
right.
Talk about what has supported you to getting where you are now as Denise in your fullest.
Well, I'm continually striving,
Okay.
because I'm not there, and I don't think we ever get there. I think we can continue to strive.
Mhm.
So I was trying to think about that a little earlier. I don't know how to describe it because I feel like there's not words to describe what I'm seeking to understand and know, for lack of a better word, me, that inner self, that light.
Mm-hmm.
You know what makes Denise Denise.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to understand that
Mm-hmm.
um, more, and whether it's through reading or um, meditating or being in a meditative state. Because I used to crochet and do a lot of stuff like that, and it used to make me very meditative. I was nice. I was good with myself and that type of stuff. Now, what I notice I do is that I'll cook. You
Uh,
know, I'll cook, and it just makes me feel connected with myself um,
mm-hmm.
more. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm always seeking, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
always seeking to understand and actually to um, be aware. That's important to me, to be
Mm-hmm.
very aware of how I am in the world,
Mm-hmm.
how I show up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That
You
type
know
of
what comes to mind for me? You know, I'm all about the law of attraction and the energy and your energetic flow and what you're putting out in the world, right? And I like the idea of understanding yourself and going within to know who you are. What comes along with that is as you know more and explore who you are, and make choices around that, you'll start to attract
mm-hmm.
a different kind of person, thing, your world will
Experience,
open
right?
up to once you understand more of who you are and where you are, then you know, then you will attract those things, right?
Right,
And I talk about the law of attraction in a way that you could look at your life and see where you're attracting. And what that says is, how are you vibrating? And to me, vibrations flow based on how you're thinking. What thoughts are you keeping
right,
that will then support how you're flowing vibrationally, whether you are flowing very positive or negative. But it's interesting as you look at what's happening in your life, right? And just being aware of that, you can make some really positive changes. So I am continuously looking for new things, and my thing now is about energetic flow and
mm-hmm.
how I'm vibrating. And I talk about grace and ease, right? And that for me means not the struggle. Like the struggle doesn't have to be in there. There has to be
Right,
intention, the goal, right? And you know what I just thought about? That's just how we think about it, because maybe you were raised to say hard work is the way to get there. So you're always hard working, right?
right,
And that is a belief. It goes back to what we believe too, right? Our beliefs have us act out in a certain way.
right. And it's interesting because your beliefs aren't always true. You know what
Right,
I'm
but
saying? So
yeah,
what you believe is not always true, and that's a whole nother issue.
story, right? Because I just recently learned that a belief is a thought that you keep over and over again. So, right, so that's like, wow, is that what a belief is? And when you think about it, yeah, and we all have different beliefs.
Right,
So it's surely individual, and then we get some beliefs based on what we heard our parents say, and then we carry
right,
it on, and then we believe that.
right,
So it's a lot when we're trying to manage. I say in this world, I'm managing this world and be happy, and that's what
right,
I continuously look for, how to manage in this world and be happy, right? And I'm using the law of attraction right now in my Abraham Hicks, right?
right.
What that, you know? And we talk about ways of being. So when we talk about authenticity, right? That's one of those words that people talk about and what it really means. Can you? I know you're passionate about that in the workplace, right? That was
Right.
one of the things that you worked on. Can
Right.
you talk a bit about what that looks like and how you're moving forward with creating authenticity in the workplace?
So, and that is important to me. So, authenticity, a lot of times people hear it and they think, oh, that means I can say whatever I want to say to anybody,
Mm,
whenever and however I want to say it, because I'm being real. But that's not it. It's about
mm,
that inner voice that's inside of you, deep inside of you, that inner light, and you letting it shine and you letting it be there. So, for instance, in the workplace, a lot of times, not all places, but a lot of places, you have to, oh, what's the word? You have to assimilate to that culture. You have to
mm,
change who you are for some of these places that you work at. Well, I believe that I should be able to be who I am and
mhm,
show who I am.
mhm,
As long as I am being professional, as long as I'm doing my job, I should be able to do that and allow people who work with me to be who they are also, to be authentic also. And I had started doing that with this job that I have now, working at this particular university. I am more who I am at work. And it just feels very different to me.
mhm,
I'm true. I'm honest about who I am, and I try to allow my team to also be who they are and to share what their gifts are, because we all have gifts.
mhm.
We absolutely all have gifts, and we have something to contribute.
Uh,
um
what a question came to mind. What would you say caused or attributed to that shift? You said in this environment. Is it because this environment allowed you the space to do that, or what happened
oh,
with
that's a good question.
it?
I changed.
You
I changed. So that was around the time when I moved from New York
mhm,
to here. And
mhm,
as you know, I went through a major shift, the major life changes
mhm,
around that time.
mhm,
And that's when I realized, again, another time in my life where I realized I have choices, you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
and I have choices, and I can be me, and I can choose to be me, and to be out there, to be authentic. And that's how I am at work, still am at work.
mhm,
And it hasn't it's challenging in other ways, because there are people that may not be comfortable with that, because there's
mhm,
nothing that I'm doing, to tell you the truth, there's nothing that I'm doing. No one can say that I am not doing my job. What I
mhm,
am doing is just being open and honest, and just letting myself show up, that
mhm,
type of thing. So, but sometimes people are uncomfortable with that type of stuff. And in the workplace, a lot of times people, like I noticed a lot of, let's say, staff may be afraid to speak to the directors,
mm,
or the
mhm,
directors really believe that, oh, staff, I don't need to speak to staff. Well, that's not where I'm at, because we're all equal, and we're all unique,
mhm,
and we all have something to add. So I just try my best not to squash anybody else's light,
mhm,
or to be part of dimming somebody else's light.
mhm, mhm.
um I just do my best to support.
I know it's interesting because you did talk about a culture, and we walk into these environments that have a certain culture going on, and then we work to kind of be authentic within those
Right.
confines, and a lot of times I find that people are not authentic. It's really about conforming to the culture, right, and fitting in. And that's not always worked for her. I know it didn't quite work for me, because I was always considered rebellious, or I needed to be on a diversity committee because I always had spoke up. But it, in a culture, shifting that. How do we get people? Because most people say they aren't honest at work. Most people feel like they have to be so different at work.
Exactly. And that's it. Exactly. That's the thing that got me when I started realizing, because when you are, and they have studies about all of this, but when you are conforming, well, actually, they even call it actor. When you're an actor at work, you're not bringing your full self to the job, and it has an effect on you. Internally, it has an effect on you, on your inner self, and that type of thing. You did more productivity happens. Again, we know with a more diverse group, and with those people that are allowed to be creative, allowed to show themselves, you get more productivity and that type of thing. And the other thing is, and I feel so strongly about this, but there's no reason not to treat someone like a human being at work. When you're at work, there's no reason why you got to yell at somebody.
Right.
There's all adults at work. Come on. Can we just be a little more gentle with one another? That type of thing, egos and all of that type of stuff it comes into play. And I mean, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing because, like you said, all of that stuff is going on. So
I think about, could we ever get people to love in their jobs?
See, but see, that's the hard part.
Right.
But you find that studies show most people don't like their jobs because they don't like their managers. So that's one. That's one of the big things. People don't like their jobs because they don't like their managers. One thing people do say is that they don't get paid enough. So that's a big thing. They don't get paid enough. However, studies show still the number one reason why most people don't like their jobs is because of managers. They don't like their managers. They don't like, the way they interact with their managers. And that's always interesting to me, because when I really think about it, most of the places I left because I did not care for my manager.
Like I'm battling with mine all the time.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not leaving though, but it's interesting to be able to create that sense of being who you are, contributing at your best. Because I was thinking about like loving your job and increasing productivity, right? Because happy people, right.
It's a wonderful day. It's a wonderful day. This is wonderful. Look, I'm doing what I love. Because I think about that. I like what I do. It's no joke. I like what I do. But what frustrates me are people. So sometimes I get frustrated. It's people.
And you have to work with them all the time, right?
And then how for me to remain authentic, because that's my number one thing. So how do I remain authentic?
But I think we get to that later, because and then I'd say we've gone through a lot of stages and careers and shifts and everything, right? But we've gotten to this now, the whole thing about being authentic in the workplace, right? And to be able to bring that to a workplace, we're able to do it and then share it with others in terms of just kind of shifting the workplace. Yeah.
But I also, now that you said that, I'm also thinking what we also say is
Mhm.
being at our particular age at this time, we don't have the patience. You know, years ago, there were things I would say, okay, fine. Now I
Right.
look at it and like, oh, okay, this is ridiculous nonsense that I do not want to participate
Right,
in.
yeah, right. We're
So,
making different choices now, right?
but
Yes,
that's a
exactly.
challenge. So that's
Right.
where I'm being challenged now because
Hmm.
it's about me trying to stay authentic and
Hmm.
not losing my mind up in there. You
Yeah,
know,
right, right, right. And in a culture that is evolving, I guess,
it
continuously
is. It
changing
is.
because
Yes.
depending on as people come and go, how it shifts, right?
Yes.
And that's where you can see a shift. But
Right.
yeah, less tolerance. And I say because a lot of the companies now are intergenerational, how can we support everybody in creating this new work culture,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then that's when bringing in the authenticity and bringing in, really being able to truly be yourself. So that would be a dream,
Right.
right? To
Right.
have a company and create that type of environment. Um, well, I wanted to get to you to just leave the audience with your top three spiritual practices and how they support you. Let's talk about that spirituality because I talk about the spiritual toolkit, and I like to introduce people to different things. When you say like crocheting, it reminded me of like a mindfulness practice, right?
Right.
And crocheting would be in that kind of mindfulness practice that can support in getting clarity and relaxing. A lot of it is about just shutting down for a moment, right?
Exactly. Like I realized over the years, one of the things that I have done, particularly when I have unusually stressful times, I'm
Mhm.
going through something, is being reflective. It's
Mm.
not necessarily meditating, but it's literally sitting and being still,
Mm.
and just being.
What's on your mind? You're thinking about
No, I'm just trying to
I'm
settle
silly.
myself down and just sit and be,
Right.
so if
I was
something,
just trying to see the difference between meditation and that because when people say with meditation, the idea is just to sit there and not think about anything.
well, but I might grab a thought. So, you know what I'm saying? Like I might grab when those thoughts going by.
And then
I mean, that's what got me down here. So
and
that was it. I was sitting
mhm,
and I was just trying to quiet my mind,
mhm,
settle down, and a thought someone had said, something that someone had said to me,
mhm.
I started reflecting on that. And that's when I
Okay.
realized it opened up, like all of a sudden I had a different perspective. Felt a
Okay.
different
Okay.
way
Okay.
about, because I was trying to decide where I could live and all this kind of stuff. And
Mhm,
it opened up the world to me because I realized, oh, wait a minute, you could go anywhere, you could do anything. And it
mm,
spoke to me, and then I reflected a little deeper on that. So reflection, and that can come by sitting and being still, but it also can come through reading. So
mhm,
if I'm reading something in particular that hits me, that
mhm,
I feel, I'll reflect on that. It could come
mhm,
from, different videos I'm watching. So that's
mhm.
one of the things I do.
That's interesting. Okay, reflection. I like that because it makes me laugh when you said a thought, a come. And I know in meditation, thoughts come, but you're supposed to let them
Let it
pass.
go. Right.
What you said, a thought will come and you'll grab onto it.
Right. Right.
And that's really the distinction for me, right? Between reflection, right? Grabbing that thought, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly. It speaks to me. It literally
Mhm,
speaks to me. You
mhm,
know, meditation, I do it, but not on a regular basis. But reflecting, I do more often. You
mm,
know, that's easier for me to do because even cooking, because I
mm,
get in a very reflective state, you
mm,
know, while I'm cooking. Um,
mhm.
and like you said, what was the other word you said? Like oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, but
Mhm.
it makes me, you know, I'm thinking about the meal I'm fixing. I'm thinking about how I like it to taste. I'm
Mm.
thinking about, you know, all of those different things. And then maybe no, normally when I'm cooking, I'm focusing on those type of things. And it really just puts me in a nice state. You know,
It's
it relaxes me.
mindfulness. It reminds me of a mindfulness
Yes,
practice.
that's what I was trying to think of.
Okay,
Mindfulness. Yes.
because you are actually cooking and in the cooking right there,
Yes.
and the only thing you're doing is
It's
cooking and
cooking.
aware of the cooking. And
Right.
so, yeah, I get that. That's like a great mindfulness practice. I like cooking and eating and talking about food. Right.
Right.
I like to eat it. I love to eat and I love not to eat. You know, I could go both
Right.
ways. When
Right.
I
Right.
juice fast, I love it. The best thing ever. And then when I'm eating, I love it, right?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So I like that. So the reflection is done in many ways. I like that one. And what would be your last two? Th- Two.
Oh Lord. Well, had been coloring. I like
Oh.
mandalas. You
Mm.
know, I love mandalas. They're nice and peaceful.
Mhm. It
Um,
seems like you're using your creativity is one of the things that supports you as your spiritual practice. And I like that because we talk about different spiritual practices and all of it goes back to your reflection. So that's pretty cool.
mhm.
Thanks for sharing that from that perspective, right? It's meditation where you grab onto a thought. And then you reflect on that thought,
That's
right?
right. You know, meditation is supposed to let that stuff float by.
Right. But
And
you
I said, oh, that one looks interesting. Hey.
said that's pretty cool. Well, I'm really glad that we had this time together. I really appreciate you for
Oh, of
coming to
course.
the show. And thank you for sharing that information with the university and the different things that are happening there.
You're
So,
welcome. Thanks for having me.
yeah, I'm glad we could have this conversation with Reverend G. So,
Yeah.
you have a great week, and I'll definitely be in touch. Thanks for
All
coming.
right. Take care.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye. Thank you for joining Conversations with Reverend G. I'm here every Monday night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on WEMS Radio. I bring different guests on to talk about their life experiences, their spiritual journey, anything that they have that can support us and support us to live our best life and support us when we are stressful and to support us in making our life everything that we want it to be. So, on my show, you'll find people from all walks of life. I'm here on WEMS Radio. You can also find me on Instagram as Rev Granetta. I also post on Facebook as Reverend Granetta Mason. And I have a lot of great little YouTube videos on YouTube under Granetta Mason. So I am Reverend G, and I'd like to leave you with this. Find a little bit of joy in your life. And that joy can expand and expand and expand. I will see you next week on Conversations with Reverend G. Have a great week.